Hi, I'm Jeff. Welcome back to Wild Things Garage. Today we're going to be installing a fuel pump and a water pump on our small block Chevy going in our 1934 Ford Coupe. So stick around. Hope you enjoy. Remember, when you're installing a fuel pump, you want to make sure that you get your push rod in, and you want to make sure that you clean the surface, all the mating surfaces for the gaskets. And we're going to use ultra black RTV just a smear on the surface, and then you stick the gasket to it, and then a smear on the plate and stick that onto it, smear on there, gasket, smear on the other parts, gasket. That's how we do it. And there's a nice little nipple on the end of the cap to poke a hole in with, so that works. They do come with a nice nozzle that you can use if you want. You can trim it to whatever size. If you're gonna try to lay a nice size bead, then you can actually use this to try to lay a nice bead. But seeing as how we're just gonna use it and smear it on, we're going to, I just poked a hole and we'll just squeeze her out and use what we can. Doesn't take a whole lot. You're just basically making sure that you have some sealant around where the gasket goes. The gasket does the majority of the sealing. This is just to make sure the gasket, any uneven surfaces, any little divots or pits, which this engine was cleaned up and all the surfaces were smooth, so I shouldn't have any pitting or anything like that. But on an older engine, you may have some issues, so it's good to just use a little RTV. And if you did it right, the gasket should stick. Now looky there. Seems like it's sticking. And then I have a block off plate, and again we'll put a little, and you don't have to use much, just basically just smearing it on to give it something to grip to and something to stick to. Doesn't take a whole lot. Luckily landed dry side down. I also use Loctite on the bolts so they don't take it back out. They won't back themselves out. Now you're ready to install the plate. We'll put our rod in first, just to make sure in case there's not enough clearance. This rod has got a copper on one end, and that end goes up against the cam. That's just the way this engine's built. It's got a roller cam, and there's grease in there so it holds it up. I've seen people use some other forms to hold it in place, but if you have a little gob of grease, it'll usually do the job. Just on the end of the rod, it'll hold it in place for you. These aren't very big bolts, so you don't want to over tighten them. Just snug them up good. And back to more RTV. I'll just put it on the surface here. Just enough to hold that gasket in place. When we put the water water pump in. Just enough to hold the gasket in place. And more RTV on the pump itself. Just a thin layer. Don't need a lot. And I scuff the surfaces so that it gives it something to stick to. And you don't have to worry about the gasket falling off. Another way, if you have issues with your push rod sliding down and your engine's on a stand, just roll her over a bit. Get her pushed back in there. That way everything will line up, drop in nice and easy. So I got my gasket on. I got my RTV on this side. So we'll just drop this in. And I know that the rod is on the far side, so I don't have to worry about that. And you just run these bolts in. And again, these bolts aren't that big. You don't have to go too crazy on tightening them. You just want them to snug up. Make sure you don't have any kind of gap between the fuel pump and the gasket or the block. Got them snug down good. And that's it. Pretty simple install. All right, next up we'll move on to the water pump. All right, onto the water pump. Now I've already scuffed the surface of these and the surface of the water pump itself. I have the gaskets here. The bolts are already pre-Loctited. Instead of using RTV, I'm using a water pump and thermostat housing gasket maker. It's more resistant to the chemicals in the coolants. So we'll use this instead. And again, it has a nice little point on the cap so you can poke a hole. And again, just doing the same thing, we're gonna just put a little smear on the surface so that the gasket will stick to it good. And you'll notice that this side, the passenger side of the engine, actually has a hole below the main water pump water passage. So you want to make sure that your gasket doesn't, that you put your gasket on the proper way so it doesn't block that hole, or so that it is actually being sealed. And then the driver's side doesn't have that bottom hole, and the gaskets they give you come with it. And you can trim them off or you can leave it on. It doesn't really matter. And it really doesn't matter if you install it upside down or right side up. That's not a big deal either. I always install mine down just so that it's kind of hidden behind the water pump, or trim it off. And you can do that too. Just be careful. Make sure you don't trim off any of the material that you actually need. for the for sealing the water pump. But in my case, I don't care enough to really worry about trimming it. So. And this side has the hole. Make sure that gasket sits on there. And this side doesn't have a hole, but we'll just put her down anyhow. Now we'll do the same with the water pump itself. Just a little bit on each, just to help seal up that gasket. You definitely don't want water pump leaking after you freshly installed it. Nothing ticks you off more than having to redo any work you've already done. In the aviation industry, we call that recreational maintenance, and nobody likes to do that. Having to redo what you've already done. Just a nice light layer, nothing too thick, just to kind of help that gasket seal up good. Now also, when you apply these RTVs in the gaskets, you're going to want to let them set at least 24 hours before you put any fluid in them, because that's how long it takes for the RTV and whatnot to set up. You just get them started. I'm just snugging them down to hold them in place until I get the other one started. Again, it's another pretty easy install. Something that's got to be done. So now these have to be torqued to 30 foot-pounds. Now I got to grab an adapter. I do have my torque wrench and it's set to 30 foot-pounds. I will torque them up. All right, all torqued up. You can, and I like to go by and wipe off any excess if you have any, just to kind of clean it up. And, you know, if you don't make a mess, you're fine, but I'm old. I spill a little. Also, before you run water into this, you're going to want to make sure that if there's any holes, like there's a hole here for the heater hose, you're going to want to either cap that or make sure that's hooked up properly. And also make sure that the surface of these is nice and smooth and clean, so when you put your hoses on that they're going to get a good seal. And that's basically it. Pretty simple, pretty easy. That's a little bit more done to the engine. So next time we'll add a alternator, some pulleys for the water pump and the crank, get all that lined up, and we'll be one step closer to having this ready to go. All right, well, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.